Next, I'd like to invite up Eric Creever again. He's going to introduce our keynote speaker. Thank you, Eric.
So last year in fire school, we had a commitment as a executive board, as a committee, to try to get people out of here at a decent time so they could get checked into their rooms, they could get lunch in, and they could get to their classes at a decent time. So after fire school ended, I was on the floor, and Chief Dennis Compton came up to me, and we spoke a little bit, and he said, I'd be honored to help you guys out and consider being a keynote for you. And of course, I didn't let him get very far from me on that one. And I grabbed him right away. I said, absolutely. And the committee was 100% for it, so we're really honored to have him here today. I'm going to read a little bit about Chief Compton for those of you who don't know that much about him, but I doubt there's hardly anybody in here that doesn't know that much about Chief Compton. Chief Dennis Compton was the fire chief in Mesa, Arizona for 6 years, and the assistant fire chief in Phoenix, where he served for 28 years. He is the past chairman of the executive board of the International Fire Service Training Association and past chairman of the Congressional Fire Services Institute National Advisory Council. He has most recently served as the chairman of the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation Board of Directors and secretary of the International Public Safety Data Institute Board of Directors. Dennis is a well-known speaker and author of several books and articles. During his nearly 50-year career in the fire service, he has received many prestigious awards and recognitions. Dennis has been inducted into the National Fire Heritage Center Hall of Legends, Legacies and Leaders, the Firehouse Legends and Icons National Hall of Fame, and is a charter member of the Arizona Fire Service Hall of Fame. It is my honor to introduce our keynote speaker, Fire Chief Dennis Compton.
Thank you very much, and it's really nice to be back with you all again. I haven't spoken here for several years. I've done some workshops and stuff, but haven't done this for several years. And it's so nice to see so many good friends out there, old ones and new ones. And thank you for having me. Now, they're having trouble with a remote here today, so I'm going to be the remote, okay? So when you're asked to do a keynote for 20 minutes, some of you who may have been asked to do it, you've got to focus in on something that hopefully will resonate with everybody in here. So as I was thinking about what to talk about, if you bring up my first slide, when I was thinking about what to discuss with you, this came to mind. And that's the issue of leadership. But not just leading other people. Not just leading other people. That's what we always think about when we think about leadership. But what I want you to think about this morning, too, is personal leadership. Personal leadership. And the reason I want to do that is because if you've ever had any training whatsoever in the subject of leadership, the first thing they taught us all was that you lead primarily how? By example. By example. And I believe, and I know a lot of other people who believe, that do as I say, not as I do doesn't work. Okay? So if I can't lead myself, if I can't be the things that I want you to be, if I can't be positive, productive, and healthy myself as a fire officer, a firefighter, a leader, then how in the world should I expect someone else to do that for me? So personal leadership becomes the key. It becomes the key to leading other people. And if you'll give me that next slide there, you look at that word, and let me help you through this because it's a large group. But what that word means is this, introspection. It's the ability and the willingness to look inside ourselves and ask ourselves, I wonder if there's anything that's going to be said in here this morning in 20 minutes that will help me be more effective or help the people around me more effective. Because anytime we talk about leadership in any session I have ever done, There's the tendency to, instead of thinking about ourselves and what we might do to be more effective, we think about other people, and especially bosses we might have, and how they're the problem. So we say things like the wrong people were in the room, okay? See, the right people are in the room. Because as I look around this room, I see the people who are leading the fire service currently. I see people who led it in the past. I see people who aren't even in the fire service. And I see a lot of people who are going to be taking care of all this in the future. So let's look inside ourselves for 20 minutes and practice something called introspection. But before I do that, how many people in this room are veterans of the United States military, any branch at all? Stand up, please. Thank you all very much for your service. So we can go to the next slide. Mel Sorensen is not here today. I've been looking all over for him. I don't see him, but he was kind enough to send me this photo of the first fire station he ever worked in. Okay? And I thought I would use it because if you think about it, think about how long and rich the history of the fire service is. And I think the next slide shows us how far we've really come. And that's it. Nothing's the same. Nothing's the same. Next year, I complete my 50th year in the fire service. Nothing's the same. The equipment that we transport people on is completely different. Brian told you a few minutes ago that it's going to be completely different again, right before our very eyes. Okay? And the firefighters, although they're humans still, they're not equipped the same. They're not even selected the same. They're not trained the same. So if you look at the next slide, I think you'll see that the fire service was founded in January of 1678. 1678. But do you know that there has been more change in the fire service in the last 50 years, in just the last 50 years, than in all those other years combined? More significant change. Changes in the mission, changes in the culture, changes in almost everything we do and use is different. And that's a tough journey. But look at you today. If you look at that next slide that's coming up there, you'll see that this is you today. This is our firefighter today. Because you deal with structure fires. You deal with Tasmanian types of stuff. You deal with technical rescue. You deal with USAR types of situations, perhaps. You go to places where people are randomly shooting other people. You go all over the place and do all kinds of different things in that role. But look what else you do. The medical capability of a firefighter today. When we first started the paramedic program, you all, a lot of us in here were there, okay? You had to have an order from a doctor, Doug, to defibrillate a patient. Did you not? They're hanging in shopping centers now. Sharon and I live in a fully sprinklered home. We have a fire extinguisher. But a few years ago, you know what we bought, which will have just as good a chance of saving our lives someday, or the lives of other people visiting our home? A defibrillator for our home for $1,500. Okay? And I'm glad it's there because chances are it's going to be me it gets used on. But things are changing. They're really changing. We don't have time this morning to go into a lot of it, but look at the firefighter of today. A multi-role, multi-discipline, whether you're career or volunteer does not matter. Look at what you're doing today for our customers and for each other. And if we look at that next slide, what we find out is that look what people think of you. Look what people, this is USA Today. Look what people think of you. Think how the private sector in this world would love to be able to do a survey and find their employees and members where. In the top 3 positions on that list of trusted professionals by the public in the country. Okay. Now that's a heck of a thing to achieve. Okay. But is it permanent? Do we own that? No, it's on loan. By who? By the public. And I can tell you that it is a lot easier to earn that. It's a lot easier to earn that than it is to keep it. And especially in this day and age, because we have so many different ways to communicate our screw-ups to other people. If you think about it, on and off duty, it's hard for us to do anything that's out of bounds and that not be all over the place. All over the place and like that. Okay. So our challenge is to stay there, I get these every once in a while, and we've been in that top 5 for a long time. But there's another group that's not in that top 10 anymore, and they were number 5. I'm not going to say who they are, but don't think you own the position, because you don't. And it's up to the people in this room to make sure that nothing happens to change that. You can't imagine the benefit we get because of that. And it's a reflection of the way you treat people. It's a reflection of the impact you have on people you encounter in your community. And it's nothing more than that. So if you look at the next slide, one of the things about leadership is that we need to take care of each other, too. We need to deal with firefighter injuries, like they were talking about earlier, and line-of-duty deaths. But we've got, and we can't let up on that one bit. But I'll tell you what, we've got another problem. And it's a huge problem. And it's not getting better. Even though it's having more attention paid to it now than at any other time I've seen, it's not getting better. And I'll tell you what it is. It's psychological injuries to our people and occupational disease, pretty much cancer. Just this past week, let alone this past year, which you just saw the names, we have people, young people in their 30s, 40s, who are dying because we put them in hazard zones as part of what we expected them to do. And for whatever reason, with no blame, they were not protected properly. They were not protected properly. We didn't know that. And we've got a lot of work to do with it. And there's a lot going on. Your fire departments, the people in this room, Chief Cockburner, Chief Camelli, the people in this room are nationally involved in doing everything they can to change that. Okay. But who do they need to change it? They need the help of somebody. I remember how hard it was to get us to wear a self-contained breathing apparatus in the 1970s. I remember that. Okay. And it was hard because real firefighters didn't wear those things. And if you did, sometimes they wouldn't teach you the secret handshake. And you weren't allowed to wear the code ring either. And then, my God, in the 1980s, when someone said that we had to start wearing gloves and goggles on EMS calls, and we thought, someone is crazy. There is no need for us to do that. And then we would get back to the fire station and go to the kitchen sink and wash all of our equipment. Blood, mucus, and everything else in the kitchen sink. And go back in service. Okay. So I know how hard this is. So do other people in this room. I don't stand here today and say, we got to get a handle on this cancer thing. We've got to take better care of people who are disturbed in one way or another by what we have them go do. And I tell you, the United States military has the same problem. The same problem. And they're going to have to belly up to the bar here soon as well and figure out a way to deal with this. Equipment's got to change, training's got to change. The way we deal with emergency scenes has got to change. And the exposures that we cause ourselves by our own tactics, our own strategy, and our own equipment, and our lack of knowledge and our culture, like it was with SCBAs, like it was with medical equipment, we got to get past that. And it's going to piss people off. Well, so what? So what? Don't let them die on your watch, okay? We've got to change that. And I think the next slide helps us understand that a little bit. See, the influence of the fire service is what's going to really help us with that. It's the influence of the fire service from the standpoint of leadership that's going to cause this, it's going to make us or break us in this. And this is just an example of that leadership at the national level with Congressional Fire Services Institute, and it shows that instead of all the organizations on the left dealing individually with Congress, the ones on the, if you look at the graphic on the right, they deal together. And the next time someone says that the fire service doesn't speak with one voice, someone needs to strangle them. They do all the time. They do every year. Not on every issue, but on 4 or 5 or 6 of the major issues, they do every year. And they exercise their collective influence. Now, how many in this room knew that the state of Arizona has an Arizona Fire Services Institute that decides each year what issues they're going to take forward in the legislature? That's an incredible thing. Only about 15 states have done something like that. And it's modeled after this. Okay? And it's an unbelievable asset to you. Okay? But the reality of it is that in the future, exercising this influence is going to be based on building relationships. And it's going to be up to you all, as I look out here, in the volunteer and career fire service, for some of you to step forward and be those leaders at the national, state, local, regional levels of government. Be those advocates. Be those leaders. Chair those groups. Sit on those boards. Because if you don't, you will lose your influence. And if you lose your influence, you lose your ability to do what I had on the last slide. And that's change the process, change the system, get different resources to do a better job of taking care of one another and the public. We lose our capability to do that. We don't want that to happen. So it's up to you to say, you know, in the future, I'm going to step forward. I'm going to get involved. I'm going to get involved in the fire chiefs. I'm going to get involved in the PFFA. I'm going to get involved with the volunteers. I'm going to get involved. Okay? Now, the other issue with that, though, and something that's a challenge for all of us, is think how long we stay in the fire service. Most of us come into the fire service as young men and women. But most of us do. Not all of us, but most of us do. And then we stay how long? Most people, who enter the fire service, will stay in the fire service the majority of their adult life. That stuff you read about 5 years and out for occupations, you're off looking for another job somewhere, that might be true in certain sectors. It's not true in the fire service. Go ask them. I do it all the time. Go ask them. They're not going somewhere else. They're staying here. Okay. And with that comes a heck of a responsibility for us regarding leadership. And not only leading them, but them leading themselves. Because imagine coming into a position when you're 23 years old, and you're going to stay in that organization till you're 58 years old. And you're going to have good days, and you're going to have some really bad days. You're going to have good things happen to you at home and at the fire department, and you're going to get to reap the benefits of those good things, and you're going to get to deal somehow with the downside of it. And the two things are going to happen to you as you go through the challenges. Because life is a series of challenges, I think, with a few good times thrown in now and then. I think it's a series of challenges. And you either get bitter because of the challenges that happen to you between the ages of 23 and 58, or you get better because of them. When you retire, people are either sorry to see you go or happier than hell to see you go. I mean, it's not cosmic. You've seen it. And if you look at the next slide, it has a lot to do with this too. And that's our attitude. Any of you ever work with somebody who was just negative constantly? I mean, absolutely constantly negative. It's difficult. It's difficult. And if you look at the next slide, I think something else is difficult too. And that's working for somebody who that is the case at all times. In other words, I don't care whether they're a 5-bugle gold chief or a 2-bugle silver captain. When that's the perception of the people who work with you, that you have cerebral rectal inversion most days, you're going to have trouble leading. If you don't have a reputation for getting better if things get more difficult, of having composure when things get more difficult, you're going to struggle. And if you look at that next slide, these three things, y'all, I don't even talk about leadership anymore without mentioning them. Lead by example, build trust with people, and build respect with people. And don't lie to people. Don't steal their ideas from them. And don't talk behind other people's backs. We learned that in school. We didn't learn it in the fire department. Someone who's bad-mouthing you behind your back constantly, you can't trust those people as far as you can throw them. And if they're bad-mouthing someone else and you're standing there, guess who they're bad-mouthing when you're not there? As a leader, you can't do it. You can't participate in it. And finally, if you bring me that last slide there, I want you to read this right quick as I close this out. Because I think it's the most important thing to remember, because no one can compensate for this for you. You own this. The most important person to respect and have pride in is yourself. Because it's you, as much or more than anyone else, who will celebrate the good and somehow endure the bad that results from your words, your decisions, and your actions. It's you more than anyone else. And that last slide will help me get out of here, okay? I don't know whether you'll absorb this here this morning or not, but I hope it causes you to think about it later today or maybe tomorrow and say, does any of this make any sense? Could any of this make me more effective or make the people around me more effective? Could any of this make me a better leader of others? Or could it make me actually a better leader of myself too? So thank you all very much for having me here, and have a great conference.
Thank you very much, Chief. Okay, once again, you could probably do the math. 852. And there's over 400, but everyone that's on a scholarship, raise your hand. I followed this gentleman as the chair of the training committee. And when he got off of the training committee, I was the chair, and he goes, Bob, I got an idea. I want to start this thing called this foundation. And I got all these great ideas. We got to get some money. Start this foundation and start sending people to fire school because it costs a lot to come to fire school. So what I'd like to do is invite Randy Redmond to come up and explain all about his foundation. Thank you, Randy.
I brought my notes with me. First and foremost, I like the way that Bob introduces and says he wants me to talk about my foundation. If it was my foundation, you would have pictures of me and my family in the Bahamas. Well, not today, but you know, at a better time of the year. The foundation, when that idea came into check, was a number of years ago, and it was not an idea that it wasn't bantered around and dealt with at the committee level for a long time. It's not my foundation, it's the Arizona Fire Training Committee, with the help of the Arizona Community Foundation, that makes this happen. Let's talk about this year, though. Let's talk about how things have gone this year. This year we got 300 departments that were offered again. We ended up, well, the numbers was at 400, but this morning I met 2 new departments in the hallway that never heard about us. And we have the funding for 400, but now we're funding 408, because how can you say no to 8 more? So we broke another record with 408, and I can't even remember the name of the 2 departments, but I gave them a card and asked them to get a hold of us because they've never heard of us, so we have a new friend and we're gonna help somebody else out. The good news is, because of our donors, we were able to satisfy 100% of the people that requested scholarships this year, and that's a tremendous thing. All of this happens because of, let's start with our people that carry the water for us. Here today we have Representative Gail Griffin and Senator David Gowan. They are from my area. They've been friends a long time, but God placed them in the right place, because I don't ever hesitate to call and ask them for help, because they truly, truly stand up for public safety. There's been a number of occasions that we've hit a speed bump and I've had to call them to help. Whether it was the initial funding, we lost every bit of funding from the state back in 2008. When we started and took over the committee at that point, we had to start over with nothing. We had to figure out how to make the entire thing work without the state support. When that happened, we limped along for a couple years. We did well, but when the state started coming back, I went to them and said, hey, can you get some help? And they carried that, and to this day, that money still comes through. And Mr. Tenney this morning talked about the carry through and the guarantee that that's still coming and embedded in the budget. That's huge for us. That makes a big difference. That money that comes from the state allows all of you, not just scholarship recipients, but all of you, to stay in the hotels for the rates you stay in versus the $129 per day. It's regular $129. I think this year they're paying, Bobby, 55, 60 bucks? $50? $50 plus tax. That's what the state does. By doing that, we're able to take the foundation money and fund about 90% of your costs to come to fire school. So thank you very much. You are our heroes. Stand up, stand up. And let me tell you, both of these individuals don't look at the state as the Cochise County corner, the LD14, where they represent. They don't look at that. They represent the people of Arizona. So if you ever need something, call them. No problem, right? Thank you very much, you guys. Appreciate it. And ironically enough, because of the attendance this year, it has created a little bit of a fiscal push on us. We have not had the funding to help out with the hotels. And of course, as soon as we found out about that, a simple phone call put us back on the track to try to fix that. So for next year, we're going to try to get that back down because of the incredible attendance this year, and we hope that that's going to be where we remain. I'd like to talk about our outside funders, and first I'd like to talk about Arizona Community Foundation. They actually house our foundation. They do all the smart work. They do the legal work and the finance work. And then Michelle Arndt, please stand, Michelle. Michelle's our philanthropic representative, and she works very closely with us anytime that we have a question or a problem. They've handled so much for us, and we can't thank the Arizona Community Foundation enough for what you do. Thank you, Michelle. One of our mainstay donors from the start has been the Ethel and Kemper Marley Foundation. Sorry, the first and second names always get mixed up. They have been a donor in our state for a lot of things. But what they did is they stepped in to start us up. They were one of the first ones that said they wanted to help. And they have been with us for 4 years now, and they are doing wonderful things. Nancy Ball, the CFO, is unable to make it today, but I'd like to say thank you to her. I told her I was going to talk about her today, but I think that's the best I can do. Thank you, Nancy. Our next donor is APS. Maureen Salam is here. Maureen, would you stand up, please? She's our contact at APS, and every year they seem to find a different way to help us. They always donate money to provide scholarships. A couple years ago, they said, hey, can we take over your printing for you? To print everything that we need for fire school, $6,000, $7,000. By doing that for us, their print shop handles that. That money gets to be used to help out with the overhead of the fire school to keep those costs down. We haven't raised the cost of fire school in a number of years because of people like this and because of APS, and we thank you for that. And last but not least is Tom Davis. He's here. Tom, stand up, from Pioneer Title. Tom is in a unique situation because I had never met Tom before. He works for Pioneer Title, but the owner of the company is, to me, a friend that I've known, and we raised our children together. I've known him for 40 years, but I thought it was unfair to go to him and ask for help because he's such an incredibly nice guy. So Tom was assigned to me because he did something wrong. And we've met a number of times, and he has convinced the administration that we serve the same market. All of you that come from the rural Arizona that's here on scholarship comes from a town, I bet, or a town nearby that has a Pioneer Title agency in it. Tom, thank you for coming. We appreciate all you do. Thank you. I have some special thanks this year, and I want to tell the truth about stuff that oftentimes people lie about, including our committee. The foundation was not something that I had this great idea about. Back when I was on the committee and had to travel throughout the state, I generally would pick up Polly Elson. Polly, where are you at? Would you stand up? No, go ahead and stand up, Polly. Polly's a retired public educator from the fire service and Tucson Fire, and she used to travel with me. And she talked about a foundation that she was part of at the U of A, and it got me thinking. She warmed up that idea to the point when she decided to retire, she left it on us. And we took it from there. And Polly, thank you very much for getting that started with us. Appreciate it. Another thing is this license plate thing. For all of you that thought the training committee came up with this fantastic idea, that's another lie. We had a lady come in and say, hey, we want to talk to you about a good idea. And Bob and Clay and myself and John, we were all there, and she came in and talked to us about this idea, getting a license plate. Well, all of us had seen the Cardinals license plate and all the license plates, and we thought, well, how hard can that be? Pretty darn hard, and pretty expensive, too. Annie, where are you at? Can you stand, please? She had the poor duty of trying to convince a bunch of old idiots to do something new. But I'll tell you what, it has been wonderful. It raised $21,900 this year. Thank you very much. And last, in that process, as we're learning about this, we learned that to even get started, before the state will even talk to you, before anything will happen, it takes $32,000. And all of us are looking around because we're thinking, where are we going to get $32,000 from? And we're all thinking about it. And before we could say anything, this next gentleman, last slide, John Hayes, says, I'm in. Well, you're in for what, John? Because if you know John, that's not unusual for John to say something, everybody go, what? And John says, I'm in. I said, well, I'll help fund it. Sitting at the table with 4 people. John, stand up. Thank you, my friend. You're the one who started it. Thanks. Okay, everybody that's here on scholarship, put your right hand up. Keep that hand up. Everybody here that has a license plate, put your left hand up. If you don't have both hands up, well, if you didn't come to school, if you're here on scholarship, if you don't have both hands up, meaning that you came on scholarship and you don't have a plate, you're an idiot. get your house fixed and get some plates. Our plan is to increase that by about 3,000 or 300 plates a year. If we can average 300 plates a year in 10 years, we're going to be almost self-funded from this endeavor. We need to keep it up. Talk to your friends and your neighbors. It's only $25 a year. 17 comes back to us. That money is put into the foundation, and we are so, so happy that that's what brings you here to fire school. This year, the total funding, I said before, is 408 that were coming in here, and I just dropped what I had in my mind. I guess it was important. Well, I want to thank the committee, all you do all the time. I want to thank Mr. Tenney, who is new in the position that promised us our path through, and to work on future challenges because we have it. We're so excited about that. And I want to say that we still have somebody out there that takes care of the overhead for the foundation, so essentially we still, 100% of the money that comes to the foundation goes back out to you for scholarships. With that said, I can thank my family who's always there to help. God bless you.
Okay, next up will be Paul Fraser. We want to talk about our award that we do as the training committee for the Hall of Fame. So Paul, if you'll come on up and start us off with the Hall of Fame.
First slide, please. Good morning. As Bob said, my name is Paul Fraser, and I'm chairman of the Hall of Fame Selection Committee. The committee is made up of 5 members, 3 of whom are members of the Hall of Fame, so they know the responsibility that goes with the selection. This year we had 6 nominations, and I must say this was the hardest selection that we've ever had in the 12, 14 years I've been on this committee. Out of the 6, we have 4 nominees going in this year. You want to go right up, just go through up to, I think, slide 12 will be the last slide. The Hall of Fame was established in 1998, and this is the 20th year of an induction. Not 21, but 20, because one year we did not have any inductees. And it's based on individuals who have made a significant positive contribution to the fire service and our community, which brings credit to the fire service. Nomination forms can be found on the fire school website, along with a list of all the people that are in the Hall of Fame. Those that attended, that went to the Hall of Flame last night, I'm sure you saw the wall with the plaques with all the inductees on it, and there'll be 4 more going up shortly. So I'm going to turn it over to Chief Mike Casson. He's going to do the first inductee.
It is with great pride and I get the opportunity to present Chief Keim for this auspicious honor of being inducted into the Hall of Fame. A little bio I'll share with you, and then I'll make a few more comments. Dr. Charles H. Keim, affectionately known as Chuck and sometimes Henry, was an assistant professor at Arizona State University East Campus. He coordinated the fire science programs in the College of Technology and Applied Sciences, which included a Bachelor of Applied Science in Fire Service Management and a Master of Science in Technology in Fire Service Administration. Prior to joining Arizona State University, Dr. Keim spent more than 32 years with the Phoenix Fire Department, retiring in 1999 as the Executive Assistant Fire Chief. In the fire service, his experiences ranged from line firefighting positions to supervisory and middle management, then to executive management positions, which spanned more than 20 years. During his fire service career, Dr. Keim was very active in university education. He has taught in the graduate program at Arizona State University School of Public Affairs and the Bachelor of Interdisciplinary Studies degree program at the same institution, in addition to his teaching of a myriad of fire science classes and fire service administration classes. His research interest included organizational leadership, organizational behavior, and human resource management, especially within the context of the fire service. Dr. Keim holds a bachelor's degree in industrial technical education, a master's in business administration, and a doctorate in public administration. His book, Organizational Leadership, Fire Services in the United States, was published in 2001. That's the official bio. A couple of other things like to say about Chief Keim. I took my first fire science class in 1973, and Chief Keim was my instructor. And he's the reason that I continued on with my education and got my degree at Arizona State University in technical education. He's the reason I've had the successes I've had in the fire service, because he pushed and mentored myself towards education and the importance of it in the fire service. There were very few people with bachelor's degrees in the fire service back in those days. I've had the opportunity to talk to some other people, and I'd like to have you raise your hands if you've ever attended a class or participated in a program through Phoenix College or through ASU with Dr. Keim. That's the reason this man's going into the Hall of Fame. The influence he's had on the leadership of the fire service in the state of Arizona because of the educational efforts he put into it is the reason he's being inducted. And I'm proud to ask Dr. Keim to come up and accept.
Very long, so I had to leave my PowerPoint slides at home. I've been reflecting on this for the last couple of days, and this is what I came up with. God created us to be his disciples, and he said we would need his support and a strong community, which includes church, our personal family, and the fire service, which is a huge family for us. A lot of occupations don't have a family like that. I'm blessed in all these families, and any successes that I have been a part of, or as a result of all my families, my church, my personal family, and the fire service family. My secret is my wife. She stuck with me for 60 years. Helped raise our children, our 3 boys, which I'm very proud of. We have 4 grandchildren. And I'm just honored and very humbled today for this recognition you've bestowed on me, and I accept it for all my students, for the years, for the support of my colleagues, my family, and for the blessings I've received from God. Thank you very much.
Now I'd like to call up Chief Dennis Compton to do the next presentation, and it's going to be for Steve Jensen, and followed by one for Bob Bacher.
Thank you, Paul. Steve Jensen began his fire service career in 1975 as assistant to the fire chief in the Phoenix Fire Department, and he served in that position until his death in 1995. Steve was arguably the vanguard of modern fire service media relations, public information, and fire and life safety education. Steve's work in creating protocols and policies, standard operating procedures, training programs, developing positive relationships with the media, and other guidance for effective community relations program has been duplicated throughout much of America's fire service. Steve worked nationally in various capacities alongside the United States Fire Administration, the National Fire Protection Association, the International Fire Service Training Association, and he was a frequent speaker at state and national conferences. Steve came to the fire service in an interesting way because he came to us from KPHO TV, Channel 5. He started there as a janitor at KPHO in 1966. And simply by chance one day, he got an opportunity to be one of the characters on the Wallace and Ladmo show. Now, some of you in the room don't know what that is. The ones that laughed are old. Steve served, it wasn't long until he became a cameraman and then a sportscaster, then a journalist and reporter, and then anchor and news director of Channel 5's evening news programs. And we were able to steal him away. Steve served with the Arizona Army National Guard from 1966 to 1989. Attaining the enlisted rank of Senior Master Sergeant, it's an E8, and he transitioned into the Officer Corps, becoming adjutant to several state adjutant generals, as well as Governor Bruce Babbitt. Steve retired from the National Guard as a captain after 22 years of service. Steve was the very first elected chair of the NFPA Public Education Section. He initiated many local and state and national programs that a lot of you will be familiar with. Learn Not to Burn, Urban Survival, Just a Few Seconds Drowning Prevention Program, Media Relations and Public Information Officer Training Programs, and even clown and band characters like Tiller and Friends. Steve was ahead of his time and spent 20 years helping the fire service catch up with his vision and concepts. He didn't have a self-serving bone in his body and worked in the fire service for all the right reasons. It is impossible to count the number of lives that have been saved as a result of Steve's unique and revolutionary vision for media relations, public information, and fire and life safety education. I am very proud to present my friend and colleague, Steve Jensen, to be inducted posthumously into the Arizona Fire Service Hall of Fame. And here to represent his dad this morning is his son, Jason.
I didn't know I had the opportunity to talk with you this morning, so this is kind of off the cuff. But my dad started the Phoenix Fire Department the year I was born in 1975. So you can imagine that a lot of my youth was filled with the family of Phoenix Fire, and of course, fire service as a whole. He told me stories about when he was at KPHO, putting a cheeseburger in the side of a camera to keep it warm until lunchtime. But nothing made him more proud than being with the Phoenix Fire Department. And every time I see a fire truck go down the road, I tell my son Jake, those are the heroes. Firefighters give us hope. And I just want to thank all of you for that.
You can't imagine what an honor it is to be asked to do this for somebody. Somebody that you've known, like Steve, like Bob, for as long as we've known each other. In fact, Bob Barger was actually the other firefighter in the very first fire station I ever worked at, Station 9 in Phoenix. It was my very first shift, and he had 6 months on the job. I was right out of the training academy, and that captain was in a world of hurt. But Bob served as a member of the Phoenix Fire Department for 28 years, retiring in 1998. And during that time, he rose through the ranks to the position of Deputy Fire Chief. Bob served for many years as an instructor in the fire science program at Phoenix College, and he was also a member of the command team for the Phoenix USAR Task Force 1 during their lengthy deployment to the Oklahoma City bombing in 1995. Bob became the director of the Arizona Department of Fire, Building, and Life Safety in 2005. When that department was transitioned to the Office of the Arizona State Fire Marshal in 2010, Bob was appointed as the State Fire Marshal. He was not only an exceptional firefighter, captain, and command officer for Phoenix Fire, but his work at the state level benefited the entire Arizona Fire Service, literally everyone in this room. And a lot of people are no longer in this room. As the Chief of Training in Phoenix, the Director of the Department of Fire, Building, and Life Safety, the State Fire Marshal, Chief Barger worked with the Arizona State Fire Training Committee in support of their ongoing programs, including the success of this fire school. When people speak of Bob, they often talk about his calm and effective approach to leadership. He's known notoriously for it. More importantly, though, Bob is a man of character and high values, with a love of his family and his friends. He's a proud United States Army Vietnam War veteran who chose to live his entire life in service to others. Bob is my best friend, and it is an honor to introduce him, this truly special man, Chief Bob Barger, for induction into the Arizona Fire Service Hall of Fame.
Thank you all very much. First off, as all of us always need to do, I want to thank my wife, Madeline, my kids, Michael and Amanda and Sean are here, and my brother and sister-in-law here. It is about our families that we go home to that we need to keep doing what we're doing here. When I was a state fire marshal, and it was certainly an honor for 10 years to be your state fire marshal, we ran into some budget problems halfway through my term as the state fire marshal. I went to the State Fire Training Committee and said, we're going to lose the training funds for the State Fire School and all the other training aspects that we did through the State Fire Marshal's Office. Because of unforeseen budgetary cuts, state fire training and certification was not a mandate in Arizona state law. It was, if you have the money, you can do it. If you don't have the money, you can't do it. They came together, and they certainly need to be applauded for this, and developed the Center for Fire Service Excellence, which took over the training for the Arizona State Fire Service. They put together this fire school. Even the year we lost the funding, this fire school, 46 years, continued. So they certainly need to be applauded for their process in doing that, because of the foresight that they saw that if they wanted to continue to do this on a statewide basis with national recognition, they needed to step up. With the Arizona Fire Service behind them, they did that. So I think we ought to applaud them for that. I've always been an advocate of show up to work, do your job, educate, train, respond, and go home safely. And to be inducted into the Arizona State Hall of Fame is kind of a surprise to me, because I've never done it with looking for any accolades or anything else. So it is certainly an honor, especially to be inducted with those that I'm inducted with today, those that have come before us, and those that will come after, that continue this process and the advancement of safety and training for the Arizona firefighters. God bless you all, and thank you very much. I did have hair when I started this years ago.
Here we go. One more time.
Chief, you just stay right here. Chief, you just stay right here. Chief, you're our friend too, and we really thank you. You've been up here, I think, more than I have today. And for all the times you've been up here, we want to thank you and give you this plaque.
Okay, now I'd like to call up Battalion Chief Dan Bramall from Payson for our last inductee, who's already been up on the stage, and you already know that he's well worthy of the award. And that's going to go to retired Chief Randy Redmond from Sierra Vista.
Good morning. Thank you, Paul. Today I have the absolute pleasure and honor to introduce to you today retired Fire Chief Randy Redman, previously the Fry and Sierra Vista Fire Departments in Southern Arizona. Today he's an inductee of the Arizona Fire Service Hall of Fame, class of 2019. If you already know Chief Redman, and we all should know a little bit about him after his self-introduction a few moments ago, you already know why he has and how he has earned his place among the other legends in the Arizona Fire Service Hall of Fame. For those that today was your first glimpse of Chief Redman, I want to very briefly try to communicate the lifetime of service he has given to us here in Arizona. I would like to tell you all about his involvement in his local community. Starting in 1982 as a reserve, career in 1984 from the Fry and Sierra Vista Fire Departments, I would like to tell you how he established the Cochise County Hazmat Program and helped establish the Firefighter 1 and 2 training programs, as well as sustaining them for over 20 years down in Cochise County. I would like to tell you all about how Chief Redman, in his own local community, when he saw older adults that couldn't afford the high cost of car repairs, He volunteered his skills and time and money to help repair their vehicles so that they could get on the road and not have to pay the high cost of car repairs. I would like to tell you all about how Chief Redmond has engaged at the state level to help firefighters in Arizona, but that would take hours. He has tirelessly served on the Arizona State Training Committee for over 20 years. That is almost half of the 46 years this school has been running. I would like to take just one moment to illustrate just one of the reasons Chief Redmond stands before you today, or will stand before you. Years after his official retirement as a fire chief, Chief Redmond continues to serve all of us as a representative of the Arizona Firefighters Foundation. He continues to pay it forward and live a life dedicated to service, even after the over 3 decades on the job as a firefighter and fire chief here in Arizona. His role and mission with the Arizona Firefighters Foundation is to help rural and volunteer fire departments send their members right here to Arizona State Fire School every year in Mesa, Arizona. He uses scholarships to help offset the cost. To illustrate his work in this room right now, I would like everyone here on scholarship to stand, please. Many folks in here may not even realize they're here on a scholarship, but if you do, please stand. Chief Redmond, I'd like you to stand too and acknowledge the leadership that you've had in this state and the results of your work out here in these firefighters here today. Thank you. You guys can all sit down now. Appreciate that. I submit to everyone here today that these firefighters, the firefighters that stood before you today, those are proof positive that Chief Redmond continues to do the good work and to leave the Arizona Fire Service much better than he found it. Chief Redmond, 408 firefighters are here today as part of your legacy and example of selfless service to others. Your leadership has made this possible with your partnerships, your relationships with the good people like APS and the Kemper and Ethel Marley Foundation. Your work and relationships with our state and local officials is what makes this all possible. You have set the bar high for the rest of us that walk in your footsteps. Today, Chief Redmond joins the ranks of very distinguished Arizona firefighters and fire chiefs in the Arizona Fire Service Hall of Fame. Chief Bob Weber helped get us out on the training ground and create higher quality training here in Arizona. It took Chief Brunacini here in Arizona to show us the way and lead the way in firefighter safety, incident command, and customer service. It took Chief Compton and Dr. Chuck Keim here in this room today to lead us through the finer points of fire service leadership and bringing it down to the practical level. It took them to advocate for higher education in the fire service, to lead the way in fire service EMS and making sure we all go home. But it took Chief Randy Redmond here today to help find a way to get 408 rural and volunteer firefighters here today at fire school to get the very best training this state has to offer. Results like this are not easy to obtain and will only come and only have come by hard work, sacrifice, and Chief Redmond's embodiment of the Rotary motto, service above self. Thank you, Chief Redmond, for your example of true leadership and service. Your legacy to others and all of us in this room today embodies what being a firefighter truly is. If you did not know Chief Redmond before, I hope you know just a little bit more about him. He is a true friend of the Arizona Fire Service. He is a friend and mentor to me, and it is my pleasure to call him up now and welcome him into the class of 2019 of the Arizona Fire Service Hall of Fame.
Well, I'm going to verify at least 10% of that was accurate. 100% about Chief Compton. I think it's ironic, Chief, that you start by saying you have 50 years of service, and then you talk about the 50 years of very aggressive change in the fire service. I don't think that was coincidental. Chuck Kime, another one of my heroes, one of the guys that taught me that formal education meant something. I thank him for that. The only thing I don't thank him for is the fact that I was going to talk about the tables that I've sat at over my lifetime, and you took that away. So I really appreciate that, Doc. But I've sat at tables with a lot of good people and surrounded myself with friends and people that just really, truly make a difference, and I thank them for that. What's the fortunate part about it is you hang out in a group, and I always try to be the dumbest one there. That way everything trickles down, I look okay. And it seems to work. I don't understand my presence today compared to those that are before me, but I thank you very, very much. And most of all, the table that's the best is the one at home. My wife, Robin, daughters, Kara, Brenna, and my son, Scott, and my son-in-law, David, and my daughter-in-law, Jamie. Thank you. I love you.
We're good. Thank you.
Come on, Randy. You know how emotional I am. You can't do that to me like that. Holy moly, man. We've been doing this for 46 years, and we have all of our awards that come up and due here. And all of a sudden, we started dropping off this award. And a few years back, I called up this gentleman, and I said, hey, Mike, where is the Mechanics Association at? So he said, Bob, yeah, we need to get this thing back up and running. So for the past few years, I'd like to introduce Mike Apodaca, who represents the Arizona Fire Mechanics, and they are now, again, constantly giving out a mechanics award, because if we don't have them, we don't run our trucks.
How's everybody doing this morning? Good. Great. Wow, this is overwhelming in how many students we have this year. It's awesome. So my name is Mike Apodaca, and I represent the Arizona Fire Mechanics Association. I'm the president. And we decided to continue this award to honor and to recognize the men and women behind the scene that keep the trucks rolling safely, okay? And to meet the mission of the fire departments. So what is the portrait of the fire department mechanic? This person has evolved into the emergency vehicle technician and is defined as a person whose talents, experience, and energy is devoted to firefighter safety and also public safety. The individual has dedicated type to endure the frustrations and obstacles he or she encounters in its performance their task without any fanfare or praise. So basically, these are the people that are behind the scenes that are making you guys complete your job safely. This person loves machinery, technology, and has to keep up with the ever-changing technology that comes year to year that are coming with our apparatus and ambulances and pretty much all of our emergency vehicles. Okay. To meet the mission of the department and the organization they represent. The fire department EVT is becoming increasingly clear as we recognize the essential part he or she performs. So the portrait of this position is even brighter. We give respect and recognition and value for a lifetime of accomplishments. So what we do is we reach out to fire departments and we take nominations. We have a committee within the Fire Mechanics Association. So Tempe Fire nominated Charlie Miller. Charlie Miller is retired now, but he served his community for 32 years as a master and ambulance master certification technician at Tempe Fire and Rescue. It's not only Tempe, but he's dedicated his time to this community and has stretched across Arizona and its borders. The candidate has dedicated decades for his love and passion to be the best in making a difference. He currently serves as a treasurer of the Arizona Fire Mechanics Association and is on the board of the EVT Corporate Commission as a board member, and he's also an instructor here at Arizona State Fire School. Continuously through the years, he's served and gone above and beyond in his duties to ensure safe, reliable fire trucks that be on the road. Many people know Charlie as being a person, the go-to man when there's questions on emergency vehicles. He's always saying, and he told his crews when they would leave his shop, today the firefighters still, when they would leave their repairs, happy motoring. So he's created a culture there at Tempe Fire, and what it does that just by saying happy motoring, it gives the confidence in the crews that they are getting the safest and most reliable vehicle to complete their mission. So this year, I'd like to announce a trailblazer and a representative for the Arizona EVT, Charlie Miller from Tempe Fire.
I'm very humbled that I was selected for this award by my peers. There is a huge amount of talent out there that takes care of your emergency vehicles, and for them to select me is a true honor. Arizona is ranked right now about 5th in the country for the number of EVT certified technicians. That's huge. Our guys are dedicated, and they're out there doing the job and making your truck safe every single day. The fact that they selected me for this is just truly an honor, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay, and these next award, I just can't say enough about this one because they do so much. So what I'd like to do is invite Laurie Schmidt up to the stage to do the Public Educator of the Award. If we can have that slide, please.
Good morning. We're almost done here, guys, so hang in with us. My name is Laurie Schmidt. I work for Scottsdale Fire Department, and I am the current president of the Arizona Fire and Burn Educators Association. For more than 30 years, AFB has remained at the leading edge of innovation and transitional training, making the community risk reduction educator a true professional. Through its various seminars, AFB has become a force on the national front, gaining recognition for our state and the distinctive challenges facing the fire service today. Annually, an educator is selected from his or her state peers as the Fire and Life Safety Educator of the Year, which is presented here at State Fire School. The award deserves this prestigious recognition not only because the efforts of the individuals in this field work to increase public awareness of safety issues, but also reduces the risk that each of you may have to put yourselves in each time you go on a call. This year's award recipient was selected because of his dedication to helping reduce the risks of burn injuries and fire deaths among high-risk audiences. Under his leadership, the Milo and Moxie Smart Safety Rangers program expanded significantly throughout the state and beyond this year. More than 80,000 Arizona children were reached through this program in collaboration with 43 partner fire departments, 8 partner hospitals, and a direct mail campaign to Arizona state licensed preschools. He was instrumental in launching the Milo and Moxie program on a national level. He developed the training video for the program, and he was the face for marketing the program across the state. He also played a significant role in developing the concept of combining smoke alarm events with Milo and Moxie school presentations in order to increase the installation rate for smoke alarms. Under his leadership and in partnership with fire departments, more than 1,600 free smoke alarms were installed in Maricopa County this past year. Whew, that's a lot. He was also involved in presenting Remembering When at Phoenix Senior Centers throughout the year, focusing on this audience that is also a high risk for burn injuries and deaths. His contributions to fire safety and burn prevention will be missed as he just moved back to his home state of Texas to attend Maritime School. So as president of the Arizona Fire and Burn Educators Association, I would like to present this year's Fire and Life Safety Educator Award to Jack Emmerich from the Arizona Burn Foundation. Accepting the award in Jack's absence is Mick Milam from the Burn Foundation.
Thank you. Let me say on behalf of Jack Emmerich, I'm honored to accept this award. Jack regrets not being able to be here. We had hoped that he'd be able to fly in to accept the award, but being in school and it's Coast Guard regulatory classes that he's in, he was told either death or an emergency of some sort could only get him out of the classes today. So I told him I would accept this award for him. The work that Jack has done through the Arizona Burn Foundation to educate children and to put in free smoke alarms across this state has been phenomenal. It's a mission of the Arizona Burn Foundation to do burn prevention and fire safety education and advocacy across this state, and we are so happy to be able to do that. And let me just say to those of you who have not yet adopted the Milo and Moxie Smart Safety Ranger program, it's a program that's free of charge for you to take into the schools to educate children on burn prevention and fire safety. If you contact the Arizona Burn Foundation, we would be happy to get those free materials to you so that you can continue to educate children across the state. In the 2 years that the program has been launched, over 140,000 Arizona children have received that education, and we're glad to say that we are seeing a reduction in the number of burn injury to children being admitted to the Arizona Burn Center as a result of the efforts of Milo and Moxie Smart Safety Rangers. We'd also be happy as the Arizona Burn Foundation to partner with you to see that your community is safe and installing free smoke alarms in those communities. So feel free to contact us and we'd be happy to do that. On behalf of Jack Emmerich, I thank you for this award and have a great training time here at the Arizona Fire School.
Okay, and the award that we were kind of waiting for, I'd like to invite up Dan Matlick with United Fire.
First slide, please. We wake up there?
All right. How about the second slide? Just like dragons that spit fire and smoke, chaos and fire are often intertwined symbolically and originate in a similar way. They start small, grow quickly, and become random, erratic, and unpredictable. After their peak, they become completely out of control, like a monster, striking fear and paralysis in humans. Ancient people actually believed chaos was the first created being and was associated with dark forces. Night, shadows, dark, suffering, torment, smoke, fire would lead to the complete destruction of all that was held dear. Today's reality is that chaos has become far more complex and sinister. Most people have a blind ignorance to what it means to be in the middle of madness until it happens, unexpectedly and in full force. A once perfect life instantly threatened by a distracted driver, cardiac arrest, building collapse, the rapid release of electrical stored energy, a plane crash, pool drowning, levees, toxic gas, multidimensional fires, and even active shooters. The average person is left helpless, motionless, and terrified. But fortunately, as in all good stories, there is a hero, and ours is the modern-day firefighter. Constantly learning, training, practicing, and remarkably accepting of risk to their own personal safety when courageously responding to the unexpected. Although they don't seek honors, we find ways to thank them and show they are appreciated. This has been our mission at United Fire with the Firefighter of the Year for the past 26 years. We help to identify outstanding individuals who have integrity, courage, and dedication. To be nominated for the award, actions require taking courageous initiatives or for producing life safety advancements in operations, education, or prevention. Recipients are often modest and say that any firefighter on their crew or department would have done the same thing. And that may be true, but not just anybody can or did, and this is our focus. Many of you face chaos regularly, making the selection of just one dragon slayer to represent all the rest such a monumental task. So for that job, we turn to the experienced chaos conquerors of our judges, who this year were Kelly Whittle, Joe Moore, Brett Schultz, Linda Ryder, and Anthony Butch. And now, I'm excited to announce the 2019 United Firefighter of the Year is Rob Irons with the Greer Fire District. Firefighter Irons was off duty and helping to get apparatus washed and ready for a parade the following day when an unknown man drove up to his fire station. The man got out of the vehicle with his 5-year-old son in tow, approached Irons and said, "Please, take my son." Firefighter Irons complied. Mr. Smith then told his son goodbye and headed back to his truck. At that moment, Rob had no idea that Mr. Smith was planning on taking his own life. But before Irons became a firefighter, he worked as a bouncer and was still skilled at instantly sizing up a person's sobriety and mental state. Rob determined straight away that this man had been drinking, was troubled, and was attempting to shield his son from jeopardy. As it turned out, arriving at the fire station was strategic. And although Firefighter Irons had only been with the Greer Fire District for 7 months, he was no rookie. He previously completed a demanding and stressful 24-year career with the Phoenix Fire Department. First as a firefighter, then engineer, and retired as a captain. Rob could sense when chaos was about to unfold, and this was turning into one of those situations. Irons took the young boy inside the station for protection, while Captain R.J. Carnwright slowly escorted Mr. Smith back to his vehicle. Carnwright astutely noticed a gun on the passenger seat and reacted swiftly, confiscated the pistol, and moved to secure the weapon. Meanwhile, Rob approached the truck where the man was now sitting inside and began a conversation providing comfort and reassurance that everything would be okay. Rob discovered that Mr. Smith was engaged on a speakerphone conversation with his boss. He learned that Mr. Smith was actually Firefighter Smith. His chief was on the other end of the line and convinced him to drop his son off at a safe place. The conversation also revealed that the night prior, Firefighter Smith had been involved in a heated argument with a neighbor at his campsite. DPS responded, and officers made an active decision on how to handle what appeared to evolve into an attempted suicide by cop. After an hour containing the situation, the officers were able to use less than lethal approach to neutralize any threats. Rob recognized he was now in the best position to counsel, and he let Firefighter Smith know that even though things were tough at the moment, he had a support network that would provide the necessary help. Rob's years on the job provided him with the experience necessary to tame the dragon within. He used fire terminology that the man understood, and he stayed with Firefighter Smith for over an hour until law enforcement and an ambulance arrived. But that was not the end of Rob's involvement. Irons traveled with Firefighter Smith to the hospital and continued to provide essential comfort and care. Rob was cool, calm, and collected as he helped save a man's life that day. But not just any man, a fellow firefighter, a brother in distress. Once a firefighter, you're always a firefighter, on or off duty. Today, we recognize the compassion and commitment of the Arizona Fire Service and celebrate the career of Firefighter Irons and his outstanding contributions by naming him as the 26th Annual United Firefighter of the Year. Now, Rob, like ancient patrons of dragon warriors, our sponsors and community are strong in their conviction and support for the Arizona Fire Service. They express their gratitude through gifts, donations, and raising their voices and cheering louder than anyone in the victory celebration. Just knowing that your actions were impactful, appreciated, and will be immortalized to inspire others for generations to come, it's a pretty amazing gift in itself. But our local businesses didn't think it was enough. They understand it's exhausting to conquer chaos. So they've gotten together to provide you with several opportunities to kick back, relax, and restore your energy, beginning with an invitation from Delta Hotels Marriott Phoenix to come back here for another stay when it's a little bit less hectic. In fact, you'll have plenty of opportunity to calm instead of facing chaos, because you're also invited to stay at the Point Hilton Squaw Peak Resort, the DoubleTree by Hilton, and an enjoyable retreat at the Jim Click Automotive Team condo. All of our professional sports organizations, the Arizona Cardinals, Coyotes, Suns, Diamondbacks, and ISM Raceway, want you to enjoy some tickets and an autographed memorabilia to help make this occasion a memorable one that you will hopefully never forget. And you'll feel like you entered another dimension of nirvana, taking a trip on the Grand Canyon Railway, playing golf at the Marriott Star Pass, and possibly relaxing in a new recliner from Sam Levitt's. And after a good battle, you can satisfy you and your crew's appetite with the gift certificates from Firehouse Subs, Fry's Food Stores, and a pizza a month from Pizza Hut. And when it's time to return to fighting the dragon, some of the leading fire service manufacturers want to make sure you're protected from head to toe, starting with the new jet-style FX1 helmet from Carnes and Lion's top-performing red zone particulate blocking turnouts and hood. And regardless of the type of response you'll be preparing, wearing Firedex's dual-certified pant and coat, an assortment of gloves from Ringers, and the finest chaos protection boots from Hakes. And if you happen to be off duty when confronted by the next fire-breathing dragon, you'll be prepared with your own Ansel high-performance cool chrome fire extinguisher. On duty, the Dragons will be no match for your department when they're deploying their new Chief XD break-apart nozzle from Elkhart, and you'll be able to measure precise performance using Akron's new AcraFlow portable digital flow meter. And once the conquering is complete, everyone can get the dragon gook off with 3 cases of fire wipes. Greer will also receive a $500 gift certificate from United Fire, and we are sure you'll be able to put a check for $1,000 to great use. Possibly the best gift of all is now having this rare opportunity to share your thoughts, developed after a long career with hundreds of your peers present here this morning. Rob, congratulations.
I know lunch is around the corner, so I'll make this fast. I believe it's a 4 minutes and 20-second speech. So I will go fast. All right, thank you. I'm honored and humbled to be here to accept this award today. Thank you again very much. But I must be honest, I'm only one person, only one member of an entire team that worked together to make the outcome of this incident a better one than it started out. I want to have everybody in Greer District stand up, please. I want you all to turn around. I got the podium. And see, I'm the booter, so this is the only time I get to tell them what to do. All right, so it was teamwork of the entire Greer Fire District that you see here, which made this possible. We all know that each of us has a critical role in each fire or medical call we go on. But to really make a difference, we must work together as a team. This team was able to react to a situation where a brother firefighter was having the worst day of his life, and we did what we could to improve the potentially tragic outcome on that day. I am grateful and honored to call them my brothers and sisters. We did what we do. We help people on their worst day. And on this day, it happened to be one of our own. During my time as a Phoenix firefighter, I had the honor to work with one of the most intelligent, creative, and honorable men I've ever known, Chief Alan Brunacini. Chief Brunacini taught me many invaluable lessons about the fire service and the philosophies. The one that sticks out in my mind the most, he said, if it can pass the headline test, then it's okay to do it. Simple, broad, but effective. That guideline is how my current chiefs, Chief Wade and Chief Schluter, have allowed us to operate in Greer. And for that empowerment, I thank you. I am very grateful for that opportunity. So once again, I'm proud to be up here representing my district. I'm also proud to be up here representing all of you here today. I realize that this is just one example of what we do every day. And amen to that. We help people. But I'm going to ask you to do something for me, for us. We spend more time with each other at the station than we do our own families at home. We know each other very well. We know each other's strengths and weaknesses better than most. We know who snores the loudest. We know who eats the fastest. We know who jumps every time they see a snake or a spider. We know whose feet smell the worst. And we have a lot of other foul habits that I will not mention today. We know each other. We're really good at diagnosing our patients' medical needs, and we're even pretty good at knowing when our patients have some psychological needs, 918s. But I think we need to pay more attention to each other's needs. Let's try to listen to each other a bit more closely. Let's try to dig a little deeper if we suspect a coworker is having troubles dealing with a call. Be persistent, ask questions. We will most likely open up to each other before we do our own family members. I know this job carries a great burden with it. We carry the weight of every call we go on, good and bad. The bad calls weigh heavy on us and can be difficult to get out of our heads. They make us wonder if we could have done something different to change the outcome of that call. They even make us wonder if we should keep doing this job. But the good calls keep us going. They give us hope. They remind us of why we started doing this job and the reasons we sacrifice ourselves daily. And that's the reason we will in the future as well. Keep doing what we've always done. Help your people out there, but especially look out for your fellow brothers and sisters. Thank you.
Having the desire to serve and protect is not enough. It takes tremendous commitment to learn, prepare, and be able to respond to chaotic situations and not become part of the problem. The fire school is an excellent opportunity to prepare for chaos, not fear it. I have tremendous respect for what you are all capable of accomplishing. If you see me around campus, I would love to hear the details about chaos conquered by a firefighter you know. They might very well become the next firefighter of the year. Always remember, life safety is serious work, and please be safe.
Thank you.